So Henry Gripshover the first was born in Prussia. He was a farmer. Henry Gripshover was an OG. He was one of the original Gripshovers when he crossed the Atlantic Ocean on the Deutschland in 1869. He was 15 years old. Bernard was 18 years old and Bill was 16 years old. So it was a parent's worst nightmare for Otto von Bismarck, because you had three older boys who would be conscripted into the military and would have to fight for the Prussian military under the Second Reich, the second Hitler, Otto von Bismarck. Henry Gripshover was 1854. His dates: he was born in 1854 in Ottmarsbüttel, and then he died in 1943. I'm not sure where he was buried. He had three children. He had Henry the second, then he had Kate and Mary Gripshover. So Henry Gripshover marries Catherine, aka Kate Dickman, with two N's, Dickmann. And Kate and Henry II and Mary were all baptized at the Holy Guardian Angels Church in Sanford Town. Kate Gripshover was born in 1880. Mary Gripshover was born in 1882. In 1930, there was a U.S. census that said that Kate Gripshover was in Lakeland Asylum, the Central State, place for nut jobs. She was 47 years old. She was a white female. I had heard that she had died, or no, maybe died in Boyle County. She died at 80 years old. Kate Gripshover died at 80 years old, August 8th, 1962. So she lived to be 80 years old. The 1930 census also said that she was illiterate. And she was trapped at Lakeland State Hospital. None of the graves are marked there, so you can't find out if she's still there or not. They closed Lakeland State Hospital in 1986. This is after they had there's charges of overcrowding and abuse, cold showers, lobotomies, and electroshocks. So One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with Jack Nicholson shows exactly pretty much what happens. Also 12 Monkeys. If the society says that you're insane, does that mean you're insane? Isn't it insane to be well adjusted to a sick society? Linda Henson, she says that I think Aunt Kate had some form of schizophrenia. She was locked up in her 20s, and then she died at Lakeland about 40 or 50 years later. Apparently my great-grandfather, Henry Sr., the OG, Henry the First, and my grandmother, Kate Dickman, had some issues too. Henry was committed a couple of times. He was said to have been a barn burner. So Henry, the OG, Henry Gripshover, was a barn burner. He liked to burn barns. And people who burn barns, that is an act of the oppressed. Why would you burn barns unless you're oppressed? Linda Henson said, my mother said that they kept him in a room all by himself. The room had windows that went all the way down to the floor. She said that when they pulled up in front of the house, Henry Gripshover would be in the window shaking his fist at them, and he had a long white beard. So Henry Gripshover was locked up. I'm not sure at Lakeland or where he was locked up at, but he was pissed off, and every time they would visit, he'd be shaking his fist angrily outside the window when they would pull up to the mental hospital. And he had a long white beard, and the windows went all the way down to the floor so they could see, his whole body. And he'd be like, what the fuck, Are you all gonna keep me in here, you sons of bitches? Solitary confinement make you go crazy, since humans are social beings or social animals. Henry II, however, says Linda Henson, my grandfather supposedly had no issues. I wouldn't know, since he died of kidney cancer when my mom was 10 in 1935. My grandmother, Mamie Bischoff, was 22 years younger than him and died in 1992 at the age of 95. Said you have to be careful what you're reading on Ancestry. Some of it's speculation. She's found inaccuracies. And then once somebody says something, it's out there for posterity. About Lakeland Asylum, Kate Gripshover was the one in Danville, Kentucky. So they sent Kate Gripshover to Danville, Kentucky first, and then they moved to a new one at a later date when that one was closed. So she was in Danville, Kentucky, in some sort of asylum in Danville, Kentucky, and then they moved her to, I would say the new one would be Lakeland in Anchorage, Kentucky, and right outside of Louisville. So my one of my ancestors was locked away in Central State Asylum, the insane asylum, also called Lakeland. Kate Gripshover, she was illiterate. There's a picture of a white and black daughter. I don't know if it was the white or black person who was actually locked away. I think according to Linda Henson, it was the white woman that was locked away. But it sounds to me that it would make sense if the black woman was locked away. And I am 11% African. And on one of the farms there were graves of slaves. So some Gripshovers had slaves on their land. Whether or not they owned them or not is speculation. They were left over from the previous landowners. So there were slaves who was buried in the land, and I heard that they were treated nicely. But if they were held over, I bet they were probably used as farm hands also. And that was in Theodore Gripshover's farm. Theodore Gripshover died, left 8 kids by himself. 8 kids, and Francis Kunkel. He died drowned or got pneumonia when he fell in Banklick Creek. But they had slaves on that farm, and he gave the farm, I think, to Joseph Gripshover. So there's slave graves on Joseph Gripshover's farm.